A real international watchdog just filed 7 formal notices accusing this World Cup of betting manipulation. Not a rumor, not a fan theory, a legal body operating under an actual European treaty, sending FIFA an official request to explain 7 separate incidents. FIFA's answer? Their own integrity task force says they found nothing. Not we looked into these 7 and found reasonable explanations. Nothing. 0 suspicious activity across the entire tournament. Full stop. Here's the part that should actually stop you in your tracks. The organization contradicting FIFA isn't some outside critic. It sits on FIFA's own integrity task force. This is a body checking its own homework and failing. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why that denial doesn't hold up. And the last item on this list is specific enough that it made international headlines within a single day. When this body issues a formal notice, what they officially call a yellow alert, triggered by multiple indicators of irregularity, like unexplained odds movements or credible intelligence, the organization on the receiving end is legally expected to answer with substance, not a press release. An estimated $240 billion was wagered globally on this tournament, almost double what was staked during Qatar in 2022. Now here's the detail that changes everything about how you should read FIFA's denial. The Group of Copenhagen and the Council of Europe aren't outsiders taking shots at FIFA from the cheap seats. They are formal, sitting members of FIFA's own integrity task force, a body that's existed since 2019 specifically to coordinate exactly this kind of monitoring. Number 5. The sending off nobody questioned in the moment. South Africa's Themba Zwane was shown a red card in the 84th minute of South Africa's match against Spain, and it's one of the 7 flagged incidents, specifically for unusual concentrated betting spikes around the dismissal. On its own, a red card late in a lopsided match means nothing. But this watchdog cross-references incidents against real-time betting activity, and the pattern around this specific sending off was concentrated and unusual enough to earn its own formal notice. Late match incidents like this one are exactly what slips past casual scrutiny. Commentators move on, highlights skip it, and by the next day the story's already forgotten. This is the actual documented version of World Cup betting scandal. Not a vague headline repeated by 10 channels with 0 sources behind it. If you want the real story instead of the loud one, subscribe now, because it only gets harder for FIFA to explain from here. Number 4. The 3.5-minute delay. Spain beat Saudi Arabia 4-0, and buried in that lopsided scoreline is a Ferran Torres goal disallowed after a VAR review that ran 3.5 minutes. The notice attached to this incident specifically cites highly irregular in-play betting activity during that window, meaning it wasn't just the length of the review that raised flags, it was what was happening in real-time betting markets while the review was ongoing. A VAR review is supposed to be a closed, procedural moment. For betting markets to move irregularly specifically during that window means somebody, somewhere, either had information before the outcome was announced or was reacting in a way that doesn't match normal fan betting behavior. FIFA has offered no specific explanation. It's folded into the same all-clear statement covering everything else. Number 3. $4.8 million on a result nobody saw coming. Polymarket took in $4.8 million on markets tied to whether Spain would fail to beat Cape Verde in the group stage. Cape Verde reaching a World Cup at all was one of the greatest underdog stories in the sport's history. A nation of roughly 500,000 people, first finals appearance ever, given essentially no chance against a Spain side that would go on to win the entire tournament. The match ended 0-0. A genuinely unlikely result, and $4.8 million had already been placed on exactly that kind of outcome before it happened. When a match this lopsided on paper pulls in millions of dollars specifically betting against the favorite winning, and then that exact outcome occurs, that's precisely the anomaly this monitoring system exists to catch. FIFA's response to this specific figure: on the record, nothing. Number 2. FIFA's denial doesn't match the evidence. Here's the part that should actually make you angry. FIFA's Integrity Task Force reviewed the entire tournament and concluded there was no suspicious betting activity or indications of match manipulation in connection with any fixture. Not one caveat. A blanket statement covering every single match, announced publicly, celebrated as a clean tournament, one day before its own task force partner published a report saying the exact opposite. That is not how an organization behaves when it actually has nothing to hide. When you have nothing to hide, you answer the specific questions one at a time, with evidence. You don't issue a single sentence that closes the entire conversation before your own partner has even finished publishing. To be fair, nobody, including the Group of Copenhagen itself, has published a full report yet, and there's no direct allegation on record that any specific match was fixed. These are formal requests for clarification, yellow notices, not convictions. That distinction matters, but we haven't proven match fixing yet, and nothing suspicious happened anywhere are two very different statements, and FIFA chose the second one, in public, while 7 questions sat unanswered. Number 1. The incident that went global in a day. USA forward Folarin Balogun received a red card in the round of 32 against Bosnia and Herzegovina, which should have meant a one-match suspension for the round of 16 against Belgium. Then President Donald Trump personally intervened, and on July 5th, FIFA's disciplinary committee confirmed the ban had been suspended. Balogun played. Here's what separates this from every other overturned call this tournament. Polymarket opened a betting market on July 2nd, the exact same day Balogun received the red card, asking one specific question: will Balogun play against Belgium? Out of 14 total red cards shown across this entire World Cup, that is the only one anyone opened a betting market on whether the suspension would get overturned. Not one of the other 13 players got this treatment. Same day the card was shown, before any appeal had even been filed, let alone decided. Call that a coincidence if you want. The Group of Copenhagen didn't, which is exactly why this incident anchors their entire report, and why they've specifically sent FIFA a formal request for written clarification on this case above all others. This isn't some obscure fixture nobody was watching. This is the United States men's national team, on home soil, in a tournament the US is co-hosting, with the sitting president personally involved in reversing a suspension. If FIFA had a clean, simple explanation for the market timing here, we would have heard it by now. Instead, we got the same one-line denial covering everything else on this list. 7 formal notices, a treaty-backed watchdog that sits inside FIFA's own integrity structure, specific dates, specific dollar figures, a betting market that opened on the exact day a suspension was handed down, asking the exact question that suspension would answer weeks later, an improbable scoreline that lined up with millions of dollars bet on exactly that outcome. And FIFA's entire public response to all of it, delivered one day before its own partner's findings dropped, a single sentence claiming nothing happened anywhere. That is not how you respond to 7 legitimate, individually documented concerns raised by a body sitting on your own committee, if you actually have nothing to answer for. This deserves more attention than it's getting, and the only reason it isn't the biggest story in football right now is that FIFA is betting, no pun intended, that most people will read the headline, see the word denied, and move on without asking a second question. Which one of these 5 actually surprised you the most? For me, it's the fact that FIFA's own task force partner is the one contradicting them. That's not an outside accusation, that's an internal one. If you want this story followed until FIFA actually answers for it instead of quietly burying it, subscribe now. The full Group of Copenhagen report hasn't even been published yet. I'll be back the moment it drops, and the moment FIFA says anything more specific than nothing happened. Trust me, this one isn't going away quietly.